Hello, and welcome to the first exciting episode of Buddy Talks for the year 2020. New decade, new beginnings, all of that fun stuff. As you heard our Christmas episode, that was a little bit of a compilation. This episode is something similar. Same people, Brandon, Anna, Adam, Will, and Mike. And I had a moment to reflect on the previous year, previous decade, and have a hopeful look at things to come. 4 questions, tons of different answers. It's going to be an interesting experiment. For the first question, reflect back on the last decade. For me, the last decade was a decade of change. A lot happened. New relationships, losing loved ones, gaining new friends. All of that amazing stuff. Learning about myself, learning what I'm able to do and what I'm able to withstand. From my highest highs, the lowest lows, I was able to deal with a lot. With the passing of my father, starting up this podcast, starting up In Our Honest Opinion podcast, forging stronger bonds with people, losing touch with some others. It's nothing but change that occurred this last decade. Learning about who I am and what I'm able to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more.
I think, at the end of the day, we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to improve. But I am very, very happy with where I am right at this minute.
Okay.
That's not to say that it hasn't been some tremendous highs and absolutely devastating lows to get here, but it's kind of like a sine wave, if you will, where it has ended very much like how it started, with hope and promise and, just all kinds of different, it's kind of like a roller coaster of emotions. There's nerves about what's coming in the future. There's relief that you made it this far. It's been a ride, man, but it's been a ride that's been fun. And if I had to do it all over again, and about a lot of the stuff that I've been through for the last decade, if I had to do it all over again, I don't think I'd change anything. I'd want it to go exactly how it did, so that I would know exactly what I know, so that we could be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of it defines who you are, and I feel everyone is a result of. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and it always talks about fixed points in time.
Shout out to Julie.
Exactly. For me, shout out to David Tennant. But you were talking to someone else. My bad.
No, she would say the same thing. Shout out to Dave. She loves David Tennant. She got a picture taken with him at a conference.
That's awesome.
That's a whole other story. But go ahead.
But I feel there's fixed points in Doctor Who. There's fixed points in time that cannot be changed, no matter what you do.
Okay.
It's like it will happen, and there's no changing it. Even though he's a time traveler, he cannot change those points.
Okay.
And I feel there's fixed points in our lives that define who we are.
I agree.
Whether it be good or bad, whatever the result and outcome of that instant in time shapes our character and shapes how we view everything.
True.
So I'm a firm believer in there's a lot of things I wouldn't change.
No.
There's a lot of things I would like to change, but I would not be able to.
No. I think that, especially when it comes to the bad stuff, like the stuff that hurts, it didn't kill you.
It did not.
It made you stronger.
Yes.
And I know in your case, and in my case, there are people that I would love to get back that I lost this decade.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't be fair to bring them back just to appease
ourselves.
Like it's very selfish to not let them rest.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that when you say it, and it's like 2010 to now 2019, it has been a wild ride.
Yeah.
I've been at the same company for 8 years.
Yeah.
Which means I had 3 or 4 different careers during this decade, and it did start off rough, man. It did start off rough. Like, my son was born December 19th of 2009. So he came in right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of uncertainty there. I was doing contract work, and It it was crazy, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy to go from where I was then to where I'm at now, where I'm 8 years in at a very, very good company and almost 5 years doing the job that I've been doing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
I think that everything that has happened to me has happened to me for a reason, and it's driving me forward into the next decade and beyond, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's been a long decade.
Yeah. What are just some things?
So I think back 2010. Let's see. Graduated high school 02, graduated college 07. So 2010, I think I was still living. I'd moved back to my mom's house after college. I don't think at that point I knew what my career would be. So within the 10 years, I've decided on a career. I went to college. I went to grad school. I have said career and have been getting pretty secure in it. So that was my decade.
Wow.
I learned how to drive. I moved cross country.
Yeah, that's a lot.
My whole life has flipped upside down.
Yeah.
I like to take a minute just to right there.
Last decade. Wow. Last decade for me, for one, it's hard to believe that with my job that I've been there almost the entire decade then, thinking about it that way. I never would have thought that I would have been there that long. So maybe it's makes me think that, you know, it might be time to move on, which I already knew that, but that as far as my career, and then also I guess the biggest things that affected me in the decade were the moments that of loss, and that was the loss of my parents, and that's at the tail end of the decade. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And then also, I mean, I've been with Nicole it's coming up on 5 years, which is hard to believe as well. And yeah, I think this decade has definitely been better for me than what 2000 to 2010 was. So it seems like life is in a pretty good spot without, you know, if I take in account of the bad stuff, or take that out of the equation, take all the bad stuff out, it's been pretty good.
Just take a moment, just reflect.
Oh, I've had quite a decade. Let's be honest, right? In the past 10 years, I've gone from being deep into a marriage to out of a marriage to a long-term relationship, and then ultimately just now back to just kind of being single dad. I've learned a lot about myself over the past 5 years. And that's where I stopped. I think that's where I stopped being so negative towards everything. I think before I was generally like a positive guy, but I think there was a severe shift kind of after my marriage or whatever, where it's just kind of like, you know what, I don't have to be afraid to be myself. I don't have to be afraid of the things that I want, the things that I want to do. Eating, all different kinds of foods that I didn't eat before, music. And I feel like in the past 5 years, there's just so much more. And then add on top of that, like I've got a teenage daughter now. I've got a son who's, I've got my two sons that are 10 and 9 years old. Like here they are, about to start moving towards middle school in the next couple of years. So, the last 10 years, it's all like, hey, I've had little kids. Moving on 2020 and beyond, it's all like, all right, here we go. It's time to hit middle school, high school, first time driving. I'm sure at some point they're going to get their hearts broken. The next 10 years these are the ones I was always afraid of. Their teenage years. So I've got a lot of adulting to go into in the next decade.
On the last decade, I mean, without getting into politics and or religion, I mean, yes, there have been a lot of things, but personally, there have been a lot of changes as well. The last decade was my first decade as a dad.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So, that was a big adjustment. So yeah, so my little one, well, my bigger little one is 10 now. So yeah, I know, crazy, right? Live studio audience.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a special live studio audience right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, to me, the biggest thing, because that's when the term family, the definition had changed, because now it's like I had my own, and we did our own thing, and there's a lot of adjustments there. So that's what I was focused on. And then, my second one showed up 2 years later. So yeah, so that just continued. So as far as pop culture, it'll probably be one of my worst decades to make references to, just because I was focused on being a new parent. So
Yeah. So milestones I accomplished were being able to secure a job doing video production, being able to start up and have my hand in 2 different podcasts, being able to meet someone and realize that that is the person that I've been looking for a very long time. That's the person I needed to balance me out. Finding happiness, getting into a home, all that great stuff.
Just in the decade, like I think that right now, physically, I might be the healthiest I've ever been.
I mean, you're looking great.
I feel great. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
You ain't too bad looking yourself,
appreciate
man.
that.
I
Appreciate
don't want to
that.
make this awkward, but
Yeah.
take you out to dinner after this one if your girl wasn't sitting on the couch. But nah, I'm definitely the right now I'm the healthiest I've ever been. Like I said before, and I hate like flexing, if you will. But I have been at the same job for 8 years, which for me is intense. This is definitely the longest career I've ever had, and I plan to ride it until the wheels fall off. Hopefully they don't fall off very fast.
Yeah.
Just if I was to say my biggest accomplishment for this decade, considering some of the things that have happened this decade, it would be to be an educated black male in his 30s still alive.
Yeah.
Like
Doing your thing.
I sometimes like I hear about a lot of people that grew up in the area that I grew up in, or that I was born in rather. And I hear a lot about some of the people that just didn't make it, whether it was they didn't survive it or they fell on hard times or whatever the case may be. And, my prayers go out to those people, and I hope they find what they're looking for and what they need. But being where I am right now, despite all of the challenges, if you will, would probably be my greatest accomplishment. And I mean, a decade from now, I could look back on this and a lot of this could have changed. But at this point, like, just being able to suck wind and sit here and have this conversation with you is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Getting my degree and then completing grad school was pretty big. Like I said, the beginning of the decade, I don't think I knew what I was going to do with my life. I think I was working at a deli, hometown, living with my mom. I had a bachelor's in sociology. No idea what the future would hold for me. And then within a couple months of that, I job shadowed someone who was a speech path, and then went to undergrad again, grad school, put all that in place. So those are my milestones.
That's a good question. The milestones that I accomplished.
I think there's plenty. I mean, you manage the store.
Yeah, I
You
was
do
just
Adam
thinking about
Analyzes.
that.
I say there's a lot.
Again, it's at the tail end of the decade,
Yeah.
though. But yeah, I mean, I did get to work my way up from an associate to management. Sadly, I'm back down to associate again, but that was not my decision or control. I mean, they closed the store. But yeah, I think that was a pretty big accomplishment in my life. It was something that I was striving for in my working career, struggling and trying to get there. And it was one of those things that once I had it, it didn't seem as good, you know, because you long for it for so long. Would I like to do it again? Sure. And then also, I guess I'm glad that we're doing the podcast again. It's something I look forward to every week. I enjoyed it when we had the other podcast, but you know, like we've discussed, it went and got a little bit out of hand, I think, with as far as how, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know, but I felt beat up by the end of that one. And
Production was
and,
rough.
and I think we're all at more or less better places in our lives too. And you know, with knowing each other for so long, like I've known you for what, 7 years,
I
maybe?
think so, yeah. It's been a
7,
good
8
chunk.
years. Like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because it was like one of those happy accidents that I met Will through work.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that point, you know, one of the other members of the podcast was there. He brought on Will, and I met Will, and then Will's like, hey, this guy would be pretty good for the podcast because he has some very strong opinions that don't reflect a lot of other people's.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for basically staying in contact, too, after that dissolved. And grateful for you and Will being in my life.
Awesome.
And also, I guess the podcast itself, the one that I do solo, the Adam Analyzes, I'm kind of proud of that because I wasn't expecting to be comfortable with doing it. And in some ways, I mean, I'm still not. I'm still growing as far as doing things with that, but it's fun. I would have never thought that for one, people would listen to it, and for another, that it's something that I would enjoy, but I really do enjoy doing it and putting out episodes.
Some of the milestones for me, like personally, I did a lot of counseling early on. I think I came to grips with a lot of things, like with the loss of my mom, understanding a bit more of my dad and his motivations throughout life, even, you know, defining who I am after, you know, being a husband. Like that was one of those things, like I don't know, you or, you know, people in general, but since I was younger, like I remember I wanted to be married. I wanted to be a husband and a father. Like those are titles, you know, those are roles that I always wanted. And then once like my marriage fell apart, it was just kind of like, ooh, well, who am I after, you know, who am I as ex-husband? Like, who am I, you know, as a person in the world after that? There was a lot of exploration there. Lay was a huge part in that. There was a part there where I went down a very dark path, helped me kind of figure out even my own. And I think this phrase gets thrown around a lot, but even understanding my own self-worth, you know, there was a lot there for me. So, I think that's huge. It's crazy that at 36 I can go like, I'm an adult. You know what I mean? Like, I think we've joked about this before, but I remember being a kid looking at my parents, you know what I mean, in their 30s, and like they looked like adults to me. You know, the way they acted, they carried themselves, at least the bits of the conversations that I saw. And so fast forward, here I am in my 30s, you know, mid 30s, moving into my late 30s, and I still think dick jokes are funny. Like, that's still a thing. You know, there was no cocooning phase. It's all like, oh no, I'm still me. You know what I mean? My body just aches a little bit more. But as far as like defining who I am as an adult, it's all like, oh, okay, I can understand now and accept in what areas I need to mature or had to have, mature in. And then just loving all of those bits, of myself without casting too harsh a judgment on myself.
Let's see. We bought our first house. We survived a layoff. We survived purchase of a second house. We did a lot of adulting. We experienced 2 deaths as far as, people, in our families. Quite emotional there towards the end. Yeah, it's I guess if I could sum it up for myself, it would be #adulting.
The new year / new decade, I'm looking for more positive change. I'm looking to be successful, start new traditions, take new steps, and live life even greater than I am right now. Find stuff that's more fulfilling, discover more about myself. I plan on doing a lot of fantastic stuff and learning about who I am and growing and forging even greater bonds with the people in my life. New year, new decade.
Moving, progress, getting better, like keeping going. Like something that has been a hindrance to me and a challenge to me is I spread myself way too thin. And I'm very, 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 very big now, and I'm learning this at the tail end of the decade, on self-love. You have to love yourself. And I'm looking forward to spending the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years loving myself so that I can be a better friend, a better anything to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting better at the things that I do. Being a better designer, being a better mechanic, being a better basketball player, being better at Smash Brothers, just improving and learning. And because in my youth, like, I never was able to tangibly pay attention to learning things that I was learning. Like, I was just kind of learning them. Like, in school, you just absorb the material and then hope that you don't have to recall it later in life. Spoiler alert, when you have kids, you do.
Yeah.
That's what they meant when they're like, you're going to have to use this when you're an adult. You have to help your kids with their homework. And this Common Core stuff is ridiculous, but we ain't going to go
started
there.
on that. That is, you have me drawing boxes and all
like,
sorts of craziness.
Just the other day, they had Ethan drawing circles, like trying to figure out the angle sum of a circle.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to teaching my kid how to drive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that will be happening.
Watching him graduate from high school, dude.
That will be happening, yeah.
Yeah, he's turning 10 in 2 weeks. Like, it's crazy.
Holy cow.
It's crazy how much there's a lot that's going to change about my life in the next decade, and I couldn't be more excited for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are things I'm looking forward to, is watching him become an adult and seeing if the fruits of my labor have paid off, not monetarily or anything like that, but if he is somebody who's happy and healthy and is thriving and is just a little genius, and super excited for that. Like, dude, he's in the 4th grade. I can remember 4th grade. Shout out to Sister Helen Marie.
Wow.
Like, I can remember a lot of that stuff. And these are the memories and these are the friends that he's going to have for a lot of his life.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to meet his first significant other. I can't wait to watch him go. I never did any of this stuff, but I can't wait to watch him go to homecoming and watch him go to prom and scream at him for trying to sneak alcohol and all that other stuff. But yeah, like, I'm so looking for, like, the next decade is going to be transformative, I feel.
Oh yeah.
And as an aside, like, I would love if there were some relationships or some friendships that I had lost
Yeah.
over the past decade that I could rekindle, like, that'd be great, you know? Like, there's this guy from college that owes me money because Hillary Duff had a better career than Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
I'd love to find him. But yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm stupidly excited to see what the next decade does for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's gonna be a blast.
That's awesome, man.
It's gonna be a blast.
Very awesome.
I look forward to just slowing down. I'm old. I probably in 2010 I said I'm going to have all these adventures. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I did that. Now I want to be done. Like, I just want things to smooth out.
Potentially growing career-wise, growing in my personal life. I mean, I've been with Nicole for quite a while, and, you know, like I said, the 5 years, and so, I mean, it's time to start maybe thinking about marriage or something, or a house, or, you know, we're both not getting any younger, maybe kids or something. And I don't look at that as being maybe within the next year, but obviously within the next decade. And yeah, I think that would be something to look forward to, and, you know, potentially a house or something, and get out of the apartment. My apartment, it's tough because there's a lot of memories tied to the apartment. So while I'm looking forward to growing, you know, it also feels like it's painful to do.
Yeah, it's like closing a chapter, sort of.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, like, I helped take care of my mom for a long time before she passed. She had MS, and yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm looking forward to getting out of the apartment, but yet I'm not at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough situation.
I mean, yeah, it's still, everything still feels like she's there.
Now, I know you answered some of this already, but let's see if we can kind of get some more out of it, some more succulent nectar.
All right.
What else do you look forward to in the new year or decade?
Creative growth. As you know, I definitely want to continue being who I am, or continue growing and learning who I am as a father, which I kind of touched on before. Professionally, I think I'm now doing something that challenges me in ways that I've never been challenged before. So I think, like, as far as work goes, I hope that continues. I'm looking forward to how that evolves over the next few years. But I think more so creatively. I reflect a lot, you know, especially recently on, like, our podcasts, kind of seeing, you know, the strengths and weaknesses there, because I can admit that there are some. So I'm interested in seeing, I've got, like, one kind of, like, big idea that I'm like, I'm probably going to pull the trigger on it in the next year or so. And I think that at that point, like, I'm going to be ready to kind of take that gamble, and whether or not it, you know, it grows or crashes, you know what I mean? Like, at least then I know that I've kind of prepared myself for that. So there's that. Just continue to challenge myself, you know what I mean, on a creative level. I think that's a big one for me personally.
You know, I've been thinking about this. In fact, I've been thinking about this a lot this whole entire year, because it's the whole 2020 thing sounds so futuristic to me, you know, because it's like, I mean, 2019 even still sounded future, but 2020, right? I remember trying to figure out how old I was going to be in the year 2000. Here we are 20 years in. So, things I'm looking forward to is well, okay, so being a parent, my kids are older, so that's like a new phase. You know, you're not really chasing after them anymore, but you're still making sure they don't die on a daily basis. It's changes with, you know, jobs and careers. You know, I'm in my 40s now, so there's certain expectations. You know, you're supposed to be. I'm not saying sunsetting, but, you know, you're supposed to be, like, established in what you're doing, and, you know, and this and that. Just things on the horizon for my career I'm looking forward to. I always start every new year very positive, and just kind of try to dodge, you know, the whatever proverbial bullets that come. I'm really looking forward to it because I don't know. We went through some stuff in the last decade, and I'm not to say that nothing ever happens, but it's it's like I'm me personally. I feel stronger than I ever have been. So bring it, 2020, Barbara Walters.
If I were to give myself a message 10 years from now, I will be 46. I would tell myself, remember to not take things too seriously, but also cherish all the people in your life. I would remind myself that nothing is ever promised. And also to remember what I came from and what I've done in the past. And to keep dreaming, to keep forging ahead, to make the world a little bit better than when I left it.
That's tough. I would say you fought hard. Keep going.
That's a good one.
That's it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Like, that's it. Like, just keep going. I can't imagine 10 years from now, like, even if everything is drastically different, I can't imagine that at my core I'm going to be somebody different.
No.
You know what I mean?
You are who you are now.
So just keep fighting the good fight, man. And
Awesome.
That's it.
I would like to remind myself that even though it hasn't been smooth, it's okay. Because life will never be smooth. That's just not something that happens in my life, and I don't think it happens in many people's lives. There are going to be some big changes, big transitions. So I want to remind myself that it's okay and to keep rolling with the punches and just keep on keeping on.
Quit wasting time. I'm one of those that I got all kinds of plans and ideas, and I never follow through with any of it. I mean, I'm 35 now, and I think it's time for changes, but in changes in a good way, and maybe take chances and take leaps. You're never gonna know what's gonna come unless you make those steps and moves. And it's talking about in general as far as everything in my life. So
To tell myself, to 10-year older me,
Yes.
46-year-old Will.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know that we usually always have, what do you want to tell your, like a younger self? What do you want to tell future you?
Yeah. I hope you made it. I mean that as far as I hope you've still got your head somewhat together. That you've still got a good sense of humor. I'm a sarcastic fuck, especially. These days. I hope that doesn't go away. I like that aspect of myself. So if you're 46 and you turned out to be that cranky old man that we always joked, that we said we'd be, fix it. Be a little bit funnier. Don't be such a dick. And I hope that you're. I'm just thinking like 23-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what 46-year-old Will is dealing with. 23-year-old daughter, 20-year-old son, 19-year-old son. Oh, good God, man! I hope they didn't get anyone pregnant. If Dimitri does turn out gay, I told you so. I just want to say that. I kind of had a hunch there. And then if none of the girls turned out gay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Will. I'm hoping for it. You know I am. So there's that. My youngest will be 16. Oh, she's a headache. So then 46-year-old Will, you love her no matter how crazy she is. she's crazy now. You know that, so or you can remember that hopefully if you haven't guns, you know. I mean, that's pretty much it. Whatchamacallit? Think back to when you were me and know that things were interesting even now. So, great job up to here, and hopefully you didn't screw that up. If you did, don't beat yourself up. I know what that's like.
What would I tell myself?
Mm-hmm.
Something I've been trying to tell myself. So basically, if 2030 me were to go back and tell me now, basically I'd show up my door and say, yo, chill out.
No, we're going forward.
Oh, going forward.
Yeah.
What would I tell my 2030?
Yes.
Oh,
because
geez.
it's usually always backwards. No. What would you like to tell yourself in the future?
Wow, you don't usually stump me like this, but what would I tell me in the future? Gosh, I don't even. I still tell myself to continue chilling out, but other than that, I don't know, because I'm in this mode where I see kind of like what's coming, but I don't. I always kind of look at it as a possible this or that, but I've never been the type to say, okay, well, this is just what it's going to be, and this is what it's going to be like, because I've been forced to be looser. When it was just me, it was easier just to forge my path and just go and whatever, but I can't do that anymore. So without knowing what's coming, it's hard to figure out what to tell me. Other than, you know, keep the head on the swivel.
I mean, I guess you could think of it as like, what would you tell your future kid? I mean, you don't know what they're going to be dealing with. You don't know but what's some advice you'd like to give them? But instead of them, yourself.
Oh, so like, okay, well, all right, well, like keep an open mind.
Okay.
Because, if, I mean, granted, yeah, I've been busy raising kids, but, I see some of the changes we've been going through,
Yeah.
Society-wise and whatnot, but really keep an open mind. Perspectives are changing, and I don't see that letting up. It's almost like, I don't know, people talk about the 60s, how it's like, okay, everyone was charged with, emotionally, especially politically and all this other stuff. It almost seems like the 80s showed up and everyone was like, ooh, money's flowing, everything's cool. So people kind of, I mean, we dealt with recessions and stuff, but it's like people are becoming more emotionally charged now. So if anything, really just I try to tell everybody, keep an open mind, because you don't want to compartmentalize yourself. And, opinions are opinions, as long as you remember it's an opinion.
Thank you all. I look forward to an even better and prosperous new year.